I am the Doctor, and you are the Daleks. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about Victory of the Daleks, written by Mark Gatiss and is directed by Andrew Gunn. Here we are. This is one of the more controversial stories in the revived series. When Stephen Moffat took over the role of showrunner, he wanted to basically change everything. And one thing that he was very insistent on was a new redesign for the Daleks. The Daleks have had this bronze design from 2005, which became a really big fan favourite design. What is described now as the post-Time War design, and that had become basically a staple of the show, and it was so well received. But I feel like any redesign to it would be controversial in some way, shape or form. Daleks in the 1960s, 70s and 80s always had a cool factor to them. However, they always had a bit of cheapness to the look of them. Always made look like they're made out of cardboard or plastic or not as metallic as they should do. And then 2005 came out and they looked like genuine machines. No longer did they look like people trapped in these silly casings. Now they generally look like they are vehicles. They are tank-like. They are tank-like vehicles with a creature inside of them, with the metallic sounding and the metal feel to the casing. But Stephen Moffat wanted to change essentially everything, mainly just for the sake of changing things, as well as this story. Has this with the series 5. Stephen Moffat wanted to give a much more fairy tale environment to Doctor Who, to the point where there aren't a lot of casualties. There isn't a lot of death and destruction, and as such, in terms of its comparison to the Russell T Davies era, doesn't feel as a threatening danger to our characters, and doesn't make the Daleks feel as strong. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. The story isn't particularly well. A lot of people do like it. A lot of people do like Victory of the Daleks. It's mainly what they do with the Daleks in this story that people didn't like. And time has not been kind to this story. Since in retrospective, now that we can look back in hindsight, this is such an awkward story to watch. It teases, it builds up, it makes this huge event over the transformation of the new Daleks, making this massive teaser, this massive setup for it, only for the next time the Daleks to appear, they would go back to the bronze design because it was so heavily criticised here. It's also important to note that this is the another Dalek story, which, if you think about it, the last Dalek story was only 7 stories ago, which is a bit concerning. I think it's at this point where a lot of people felt like the Daleks were overused, and felt like the series seemed to need them as a necessity, as if because there was rumours that there was a contract by the Terry Nation estate stating that they can keep using the rights to use the Daleks, the BBC. However, they got to keep using the Daleks at least once every year. I don't know if that's true. I think a lot of people it's mainly speculation on people's behalf. However, seeing afterwards, I think there actually is a justification for that theory, for that mindset, which is a shame, which is a really big shame, but you know. So yeah, that's the genuine opinion of it. But does it actually hold up? Is it actually any good? We'll see. This story is set during World War II. Doctor Who has done World War II story before, mainly the Curse of Fendrick and as well the Empty Child, the Empty Child and the Doctor Dances, and those stories are much different to the story that we're getting here. Those stories, they're much more on the ground. They're much more the Doctor interacting with the people who were affected by the war, where the Doctor goes to little villages or a street in the heart of London, seeing the effects of the war by people who aren't actually fighting in it, or if they are, they are the middleman, the ones that are much more commoners, shall we say. But here, it's a lot more different. It looks at the more hierarchy of the political side of the war, as you get to see a lot of the War Office, with a lot of people talking about the strategies and the way they're going to win the war. And it's also here that we get our first appearance in TV canon of Winston Churchill, here played by Ian McNeice. Now, Ian McNeice does a fantastic job playing Winston Churchill here. In fact, though the character is much more of a caricature, because Winston Churchill in real life was a really controversial character, and over time in British history, he's kind of become this almost cartoon figure of a war hero, and has this overwhelming warmth to him, which, if we're going to be honest, isn't actually there in the actual person. It's also a historical figure, which I believe the last time we had a historical figure was Agatha Christie. Abigail Brooke, if you want to count Waters of Mars, technically is a historical, because it deals with a historical event just in the future, not in the past. Think about that. And so Ian McNeice brings this charismatic energy to Winston Churchill. He does a really great, fantastic job here. He plays the cliched Winston Churchill that you've seen a lot in movies and TV and stuff. In fact, Ian McNeice was cast because he did such a great job at playing Winston Churchill in a stage play. I really want to see that stage play. Somebody should take that movie and bring Ian McNeice back and make it a sort of prequel to this. But fun fact in terms of canon is that with Big Finish, they actually made a series of stories with Winston Churchill where he meets up with other doctors, including the 3rd, the 7th, the 9th, the 10th, and he had a few other stories with the 11th Doctor. Now this is interesting because the Doctor's relationship with Winston Churchill in this story is that it's very similar to that of the Brigadier. And I love that. I love how the Doctor just has this this massive connection with a historical figure in the same way as like the Brigadier. He knows about his multiple faces, and the Winston Churchill, after meeting the Doctor, is like, so you changed again. The Doctor's like, oh, I've just had a recent facelift. It's all cool and fun and stuff. And it could also just lead into like all of these different like fan ideas. You know, when you see Winston Churchill talk about the Doctor as an old friend, your head starts racing with like fan stories. It's like, oh, which other Doctors did he meet? Did he meet the 8th Doctor? Actually, I think he did meet the 8th Doctor in the Ravengers box set. I could be wrong on that one. But yeah, your head starts racing to all of these cool ideas. And the first half of this story actually holds up very well, where the Doctor has basically been summoned by Winston Churchill, which we learned at the end of The Beast Below. And the Doctor, Amy, and Churchill are just having good times as Churchill is basically showing him around the war room. We have this character, this female character, who seems to be concerned about her partner who is fighting in the war, and his squadron is in a very dangerous place in the war. And she seems like she's trying to be the emotional hook of the story. However, the story doesn't focus on her at all, and she feels very emotionally distant from the narrative. She seems to just be there. She brings up something about her husband, and then just doesn't have a really big role. Amy, I think, has an interaction with her once, and I think that's about it. It's very strange, it's very odd, and that's something that ties into a larger issue with this story. However, in which Churchill introduces the Doctor to Professor Sitwell, a scientist who has developed this machine called the Ironsides, and he's given the Doctor a demonstration. And when they're looking out in the war and they see Nazi planes flying over London, they hear a laser sound as a laser starts blasting the aircrafts out of the sky. And everybody seems to be surprised and is very impressed by this technology, except for one man, one person who recognizes that sound, recognizes that technology. The Doctor, as he starts panicking, no, this can't be. As he runs up and he bears witness to the Ironside. It's a Dalek, which Professor Sitwell basically explains that he created these creatures. He was the one who made these machines. And the Doctor cannot believe this. The Daleks are working for the Allies, and the Daleks... there's actually a reference here to Power of the Daleks. In fact, this story is very similar to Power of the Daleks. With Power of the Daleks, you have the Daleks basically pretending to be human servants, mainly for their own goals. And a similar thing happens here where, in fact, in Power of the Daleks, you have the saying, I am your servant. Here we have, I am your soldier, which is actually a intentional nod to that story. The only difference here is that the Daleks here have already started out integrated into the smaller society here, whereas in Power of the Daleks, part of the story was them basically infiltrating humans' civilization. So here the story actually kind of has a landmark, not a landmark, but like a set in stone, a backbench so that the story could develop much quicker. And the first half of this story is really, really good. How you have these scenes where the Daleks are just looking at the Doctor and you just don't know what they're thinking. Despite we know they're Daleks and they're going to turn evil at the end, sometime by the end, they have this kind of eerie, because they don't have a recognizable face. The fact that they just stare at the Doctor, and the Doctor does his best to try and take the situation as serious as possible, really just shows how menacing these Daleks are to the Doctor. There's even a great bit where Amy tries to tell a joke about how Sitwell is Scottish, so maybe you should listen to him. Maybe he is right. Maybe he did create the Daleks. And the Doctor just shuts her up. it's like, no, this is no time for a joke. Churchill, this is serious. You cannot use them. You must destroy them at once. And there's become this massive debate. The Prime Minister originally called the Doctor because of his concerns about the Ironsides. However, that was actually a few months ago from Churchill's point of view, and now that his concerns have mellowed out, and he basically now wants to use the Daleks as much as possible, which might feel a bit strange. However, this story does a great job at justifying Churchill's actions here. There are multiple scenes where the Doctor's trying to debate Churchill to not use the Daleks, but Churchill just explains, like, his heart weeps for his country, weeps for his people, weeps for his empire. Constantly people are dying by the hands of Nazi soldiers, and the Daleks, though might be evil, might be something which are deadly, is something that he will use. There's a great moment where he's like, if Hitler worked with the devil, then I would give Satan a bargain to help my people. That is a brilliant line, and it does give a great justification on why Churchill is doing the way he does. And this is pretty easily the heart of the story, even maybe if it's intentional, but this seems like the main grit of the story, which is a shame because that completely disappears after the revelation that the Daleks were secretly planning on using this to point out, to get the Doctor to basically confess that he is the Doctor and they are the actual Daleks. And this is where the story itself just really falls apart. Like, after the Doctor, this is easily one of the best scenes in the Matt Smith era, where the Doctor just breaks. It stresses him out to the point where he chucks a coffee table off the Dalek and gets a spanner and just wails on the Dalek, which is just a cool sight to see a Doctor just getting really pissed and just smashing the Dalek. It's like, go on, defend yourself, and just is smashing up the Dalek, doing no damage at all. I love the Dalek line. It's like, I guess, like, you do not want tea. That's a brilliant piece of line right there. And before that moment, and that moment in particular, the story is really good. As soon as the Daleks basically are like, you correct, we are Daleks. Thank you. We've got your testimony. Wait, what testimony? What do you mean? Then the story really, really falls apart. As though narratively it still structurally works, the emotional hook of the story is just completely gone as the Daleks basically now turn on the Allies. It's also important to note that Daleks that were based on Terry-Nation based off Nazis working for the Allies is incredibly ironic, and that's actually a really cool, fun little metaphor here. Allies working with some occasion of Nazis. I feel like you could have something to say there, something you could speak about, especially when you consider Winston Churchill as a real person who did very controversial things in his time and isn't particularly the war hero that we've all made him out to be. But the story doesn't do anything with that, so that's kind of a disappointment. But the heart of this story of the Doctor and Churchill debating whether they should use the Dalek, that completely disappears and is replaced with this narrative of the Daleks, which have a ship that landed which they've landed back in time and have hidden on the other side of the moon, and that they got this device, the progenitor. However, they need the Doctor's testimony, so they made up this plan where they go and basically integrate themselves into World War II and the head office's security. They make Winston Churchill suspicious enough to get the contact from the Doctor, but not enough that he would completely turn down the Daleks. Then get the Doctor getting involved, and then get the Doctor to justify why did they need to do that. Couldn't they just go down to Churchill, say that they were aliens, and then Churchill can be like, right, if they're aliens, I can contact the Doctor. It feels like there are a lot of unnecessary steps here, and there is a lot of explaining as well at this part of the story. A lot of the dialogue becomes explanation after explanation. The Daleks shoot Sitwell, which then reveals that he's a robot created by the Daleks to basically, for cover. They basically learn that they have found a progenitor, a device which has pure Dalek DNA, and when recognizing something as Dalek, it will release a new master race of original Daleks. However, these Daleks have been altered by Davros after the events of the Medusa Cascade from Stolen Earth and Journey's End, to the point where these mutations are actually evolved in a way which the progenitor doesn't recognize them as Dalek. So they need the Doctor's confession, his greatest enemy, to basically confess that I am the Doctor and you are the Daleks, which will activate the machine. 1. The idea of it not recognizing the Daleks because it's because they've mutated too well is actually a really fun bit of irony there, because the Daleks are all about purity, and these Daleks who have been mutated to a point where they're not even recognized as Daleks by their own technology, that is a lot of fun. However, the idea that to activate this machine you need like some sort of Dalek, and the Daleks don't recognize, despite the fact they speak like Daleks, they sound like Daleks. You could have just used the Dalek voice going, I'm a Dalek, I don't know. But instead it only activates when they get their greatest enemy to confess that they are Daleks. That seems really stupid. That seems really unnecessary. And why would the Daleks, if they had this technology to basically make new Daleks, why would they lock it up in this way? Shouldn't they make it like easy access so that they can create as many Daleks as possible? Like, shouldn't they want it to be like if somebody just stumbled on this technology and just so happens to put this technology together to create new Daleks so that they can just kill everybody then? The logic here really just fails. But also I want to talk about is the threat level. When we see the 2005 designs of the Daleks, we actually get a few kills here, and the Daleks here have become they do actually seem like the normal deafening threat that they were in the Russell T Davies era, even though dialogue wise they're not written as interesting. There's something of a bit of a philosophy I have come up with where I basically say to people that Russell T Davies showed that he loved the Daleks. Stephen Moffat, not so much. I know the story is written by Mark Gatiss, maybe Mark Gatiss as well, but the cheek and the wit of the Daleks that was shown in the Russell T Davies era, that is completely gone and is replaced by explanation after explanation. But the Daleks do still feel like a presence. They don't feel like characters anymore. They're basically stormtroopers in this story. but they do feel like a threat. When they basically reveal themselves, they shoot two British soldiers. When they go back to their ship, they have this device which will turn all the lights on in Britain, making Britain an open target for the Germans. And that is actually a really great, interesting plot. However, the story feels really distant from it. We never get a close-up of the streets, of the people in the village who are sitting ducks. The best we get is a soldier character who witnesses this from the top of I believe it's the head office in London. And that's all you get. And it feels really like this is much more of a plot point than it is of an actual threat in the narrative. And that's a real shame. But anyway, the Bronze Daleks are the ones to do that, to activate that. The Doctor goes into, uses the TARDIS to take him to the Dalek saucer, and awesomely enough, he makes them hesitate by having a jammy dodger and pretending it's a Dalek, a TARDIS self-destruct button. But the Daleks are like, stalemate, we've activated this machine, you're not going to blow up yourself in the TARDIS. And, you know, there is this dilemma here. And the Daleks basically reveal that, right, this is our plan, this is the new Daleks. As we have this really theatrical introduction to the new Daleks, where we have this giant white-domed Dalek come out of this machine, this massive bulky Dalek with an almost organic eye stalker. And then after the white one comes out, you see, I think it's a blue one, and then a red one, and an orange one, and a yellow one. And you got these multiple coloured Daleks, which have been described as the paradigm of the Daleks, the new master race. And let's talk about these Daleks. Because, like I said, these Daleks designs were heavily controversial, and a lot of people didn't like them at the time, mainly for their design. Personally, though I think the 2000 designs are way superior, I do actually like these Daleks to a degree. I'm not a fan of the material that they used for the casing. It gives the Daleks a much more plastic looking feel. But with that out of the way, I do actually like certain aspects with them. I do like the colour, the multiple colour designs, and that you have these different Daleks designs. Apparently, each of them represented a different rank in the society of Daleks. Like, I believe the red one is, not the red one, the orange one is the scientist, which is actually its only appearance. The white one is like the supreme leader. The red ones are I believe the strategist. Oh no, they're the drone. The red ones are the drones. What would be the normal Daleks, the new normal Daleks. You have like the blue one, which is strategist, and you know you got all of these different Dalek designs. I do really like the idea of separating the Dalek society into different colours. It reminds me a lot of, and I think a lot of people point this out, to the Peter Cushing movies where you had the different coloured leaders to represent different versions of the Daleks. But, and also as well, I do like as well how tall they are. The Daleks usually are kind of short, and you know that I don't mind that. But these Daleks are really tall, and I really like that. Fun fact: the 2005 Daleks were designed to be at eye level with Billy Piper, and these new Daleks were built to be at the eye line of Karen Gillan, who's a lot taller, and that's why they're so tall. I've also over time gotten used to to their side view, where you've got this bulky bit at the end, which is which has this kind of like bump onto it. It still feels really odd, but it's got like this strange bumpy look, and the weaponry on these Daleks seem really strong and powerful. However, a lot of people didn't like these, and I think that's completely fair. I can see the criticisms, especially compared to their 2005 versions, which did have this real metallic feel. They do feel like a downgrade in terms of just how cool they look. Like, I can't really imagine these being the main Daleks for long, if that makes any sense. And the main problem with these Daleks, which I feel like is the reason why the production team basically backtracked on these Dalek designs, is how they were used in this story. There's so much information about these Daleks. There's so much cool details, like how each colour represents a different aspect in Dalek society, and how that bump in the back was supposed to held like special weapons which the Daleks can take out and replace. But none of that is shown on screen. In fact, none of it's even mentioned here. They just show these new designs, and the only thing we really get about them is these colours. And the Daleks, this is one of the few times where a new design of Daleks actually gets like an introduction, a big story, a big event dedicated to it. Usually when Daleks designs change, for example, like Day of the Daleks from the 1970s, the Daleks would just appear in their new designs. You wouldn't need like a backstory to them. But this story makes a massive effort of going, right, these are the new, bigger, better Daleks. And they are absolutely wasted. They kill two of their kind, two of the Ironside Daleks, which actually I think there were three of them, but I only remember them killing two. So is there one still out there, or maybe I'm misremembering it? But those Daleks volunteered to be murdered because they were impure, and the fact that they were so willing to be murdered, I think that was just a poor decision. You could have made them more threatening by having them go, and would fit the Daleks nicely if the new Paradigm Daleks were like, you are impure, prepare to be destroyed. And then the 2005 designs are like, what? No. And they have this battle, but it's easily one-sided. We don't get that here. The Daleks are like, yes, okay, kill me. We are ready to be purified. And they get murdered. They also continue on with the plan of using the lights as the opening. And at the time, Winston Churchill and Amy have come up with a plan to get Sitwell to come up with a machine that they can put on their plane so that they can enter space and try and get three planes, fighter planes, to actually shoot down this signal. Fun fact, the person who made those aircrafts in real life, his daughter has actually acted in a few episodes of the classic series. I believe she was in The Invasion, and she was in a John Pertwee story. I believe it was The Close of Axos. I can't remember. I think I did mention it in my vlog series, but that's just a fun little fact. And the Allies do struggle, like they do fire away, and the Daleks do get two shots, which isn't from the actual Dalek design, it's from their spacecraft, which was bestowed upon them by the original Daleks, only for them to be defeated when the Doctor goes back into his TARDIS, basically showing that the Daleks are a very lousy shot. Despite these supposed to be bigger, better Daleks, the Doctor easily runs away and escapes from these new Dalek designs. And he's just like sitting in his TARDIS for a while, and then Danny Boy calls up one of the fighters, which, fun fact, is played by Mark Gatiss, and the Doctor's like, I can open the shields to... I can open the Daleks' shields, but it won't be for long. And the Daleks seem to have easily get their shields absorbed by the Doctor in his TARDIS to turn down the Daleks' shields. Why the Doctor waited until he got a call from Danny Boy, why didn't he do that immediately, is very strange. And the fact that the Doctors were so easily able to take down the defences is it's just such a disappointment. And the Daleks don't do anything interesting here. The Daleks are more interested in making new Daleks and then escaping. And so they reveal that Sitwell is a bomb. And you've got two options, Doctor. You can either come and fight us, stop us, or you can go, let us go in exchange to going on Earth and trying to stop, and we will let the Earth go. The Doctor should know that the Daleks will not keep their promise, but he does let the Daleks go to try and get to Sitwell, only for the Daleks to activate the bomb, of course. And the Doctor knocks, when he punches Sitwell, and reveals in his chest that he has this bomb which could destroy the Earth. Which is strange, because Daleks have been established at this point of being time sensitive. However, they would destroy Earth during World War II. But anyway, but also as well, this scene has a very light-hearted tone, which, I mean, fair enough. I mean, Matt Smith really works in this lighter tone environment. However, like I said, it doesn't really... you go from the Doctor realising that his greatest enemies have returned, and he's basically put in a situation. This situation is like save the Earth or stop the Daleks. The race that he had to basically kill his entire race to stop, and yet like he's making jokes and he's being silly to Sitwell, and he basically tries to remind him that he's human to turn off the bomb. Which, why the Daleks would create a android whose bomb could be disactivated by proving to himself that he's human, doesn't make a lick of sense. And it's really stupid and contrived, but it's only here for really to have the Doctor basically trying to make him feel this pain, this agony. The scene is very poorly executed in my opinion, because we get a lot of like seeing close-ups of the characters basically discussing, and the Doctor's basically trying to remember his emotions, and Sitwell is mentioning that this thing he's going through, it's pain, it hurts so much. And the way the scene is scripted and it's acted and it's directed, I can never tell if when he's saying it hurts, whether he's talking about the Doctor making him remember all of these harsh emotions, or whether him basically about to explode, the mechanisms inside of him, that's what's causing him pain. It's very unclear. And the bomb is disactivated when Amy reminds him of someone that he used to love. Someone who she describes like, do you ever have a crush you know you shouldn't have? Like a cheeky crush, like someone you weren't supposed to fancy, but you couldn't help yourself because it's a pain, but it's a good pain. It's a misery, but it's a good kind of misery, one that makes you kind of feel giddy in a way, which is obviously alluding to her fancying the Doctor, having some sort of crush on the Doctor, which I'm really not a fan of, and we'll talk about more when we get to Flesh and Stone and the Angel two-parter, but anyway, but that actually disactivates the bomb. What's really funny is that you could take this scene out of context and state that Amy disactivated the bomb by making the bomb horny, which is funny. But the Daleks get away, and the Doctor is annoyed by this. There's a great moment in which the Doctor is like, he's just quietly, he's just really down. But it's Churchill and Amy that cheers him up and is like, you saved the day, that's not bad. And the Doctor slowly comes over, he's like, yeah, you know, it's not too shabby at all, is it? And this ending, we have a very poignant ending as well, which I do really like, where they're headed to the TARDIS and the Doctor's like, something is wrong. Oh yeah, you let the Daleks go. No, Amy, the fact that you don't know about the Daleks. I mean, they invaded your planet. There were planets in the sky. That's something you do not forget. And somehow, you have no idea what the Daleks are. Something is happening, and something means that the Daleks, that your mind, your history is being erased somewhat. Why the Doctor didn't automatically go straight to Earth, or scan her brain, or investigate this straight away, makes absolutely no lick of sense, and is, despite I do really like the scene because it has this kind of eerie feeling of you know, Amy doesn't seem to remember, and she has this very casual feel throughout the story, but the Doctor is really concerned about it. The scene easily plays out as, ooh, we'll do something with this in the finale. Keep your eye out for the finale, as the TARDIS dematerializes and we have the Crack in Time appearing in one of the rooms in the War Office, setting up the storyline for Series 5. This is basically establishing that, you know, this is a big event that actually kind of seeds itself into stories, which is I'm not personally a fan of. But anyway, that's Victory of the Daleks. Overall, time has not been kind to this story. I remember really enjoying this story when it came out. The aesthetic of World War II is absolutely gorgeous, with and it feels like a classic war movie with people shouting and the War Office being busy, and you have Winston Churchill. Ian McNeice is a godsend of a performance, and I'm so glad that he becomes a recurring character in the series and also gets a lot to do in Big Finish audio dramas. The first half of the story, where it's basically a remake of Power of the Daleks, works phenomenally well, which is only, say, 10 minutes of the episode. However, the majority of the story fails. The Daleks here are just not as interesting as they used to be, with most of their dialogues explaining stuff, and the new designs of the Daleks being horribly misrepresented. Actually, that's a poor word. Misjudged, and doesn't show why we should be interested in these new Dalek designs, other than, hey, they've got a new spot of colour on them. Yeah, but the majority of the story, not bad, but the story is mainly bland and forgettable for the most part, with the exceptions of those interactions with the Doctor and Churchill, and at the end where the Doctor basically reveals that it's really concerning that Amy doesn't remember the Daleks. But yeah, the problem is there's not really much to like here, to be honest with you. It's a bit bland, it's a bit forgettable. I still get a kick out of it, just mainly because I remember enjoying it so much when it first aired. But watching this story on a much more critical level, there's very little to enjoy here. So anyway, that's Victory of the Daleks. So join me next time where we return to K9 and Company. Didn't think of it like that. So join me next time for The Fall of the House of Griffith. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra!